I have been waiting so long. So freaking long to be able to finally just hear Shigaraki's voice actor say the lines. Let's destroy everything. Let's get this started. Come over here, Gigan. Just everything about this scene right here, I've just been dying to see. And I'm just so freaking happy. Studio Bones and everyone that worked on this episode, they delivered. They straight up, they delivered. And I want to talk about this. I think that this episode really encapsulates just the terror, the frightening, overwhelming power of Shigaraki. Because soon as, like, for instance, we got around the 15-minute mark, and you just see the music building up, I mean, you just see everything crumbling, like, oh my goodness, this scene, like, I'll talk about this in a second, but just seeing, like, the crumbling of just everything, and seeing everybody doing their desperately trying to stop the destruction, the decay from Shigaraki, and nothing they do literally can stop it. Like, you just see, like, Izuku trying to do something, you see Todoroki try to do something, all of their attacks, these powerful attacks we've seen throughout the, the entire story, it's not able to stop the destruction that Shigaraki is currently doing within this episode. And when you just see him, like, overlook the entire place at the end of the episode, where it's just like, let's get this started, and you just see everything destroyed, you just see smoke and everything, just everything is gone, it just puts in perspective how deadly of a character he is. He's always been deadly, but this really just shows the overwhelming might of him. And I guess let's talk about that. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about what this episode obviously provided, and what you can gather from just this episode alone. So, basically, Shigaraki, we know he's been in a test tube, basically. He's been getting powered up a lot stronger, and we know, thanks to what the good doctor has been doing, he pretty much gave all for one to Shigaraki. It's very clear by just the way the dreamscape sequence was in the last episode to everything that's been set up with this. He obviously has all for one, and thanks to that, we know he probably has a lot of abilities. But let's just go on a hypothetical and say that Shigaraki doesn't, okay? Let's just say he has a fresh, brand new all for one. All he has is basically the ability to steal quirks, and he has decay. Let's just say that's all he has. The devastation and deadly nature of him already makes him scary, because for one, what this shows from this episode is that he's capable of controlling his decay. And the reason why I say that is because this scene right here in particular actually showcases he is capable of it. This is a structure that's right next to Shigaraki after the decay stops. And if he had no control over it, everything around him would have disintegrated. But somehow the machine that had, the quirk erasing bullets in it that Shigaraki wanted to use, it survived. Which shows that he is capable of destroying things that he wants and doesn't want. For instance, if he didn't want to destroy something, he can completely select someone out of his decay to not kill them. So that is very scary. His overall control of decay is at a lot higher of a degree than it was in the past, at least from what we can assume. So he literally already has that control of decay. But then he has literally decay spreading to the entire area of the city. Like, the entire city just gets demolished. This means that this man can randomly just walk up into a city, put his hand on the ground, and everything is gone. That is frightening. It is absolutely frightening. And that's just decay. That's not counting the quirks with all for one. And so this is what I'm saying. Even if he doesn't, let's say, have any extra quirks with all for one besides decay, as soon as he starts to go collecting quirks, his power is going to be insane. It makes it to where, how in the hell can Izuku, the user of One for All, hope to even fight a monster such as Shigaraki, this new All for One? That is the scary question that comes to mind when you watch this episode. Because clearly, this is building up for that fight. Like, this entire episode, what this episode builds up is that this is basically the major fight. All of the heroes are going to have to come together to fight this man at once. Like the ultimate villain, the greatest villain. That's just scary. I mean, look at the devastation here. It just really shows how strong he is. And he could just go around doing this. Like, imagine if he had, like, a teleportation quirk. Like, if he was able to, just teleport randomly around. And he was just to put his hand on the ground, cause decay, teleport somewhere else, cause decay. You realize how quickly he could wipe out areas if he was to do something like that? That is, like I said, the scary nature of what this episode presents to us. Now, let's talk about the cave. Let's talk about what happened within this moment, the loss of life, etc. So there's a lot of questions in the air. Basically, who survived, who didn't. We see a lot of random fodder characters obviously get completely destroyed. We can assume a lot of civilians as well, but we have to wonder some of our important characters. What happened to, like, the Pussycats? Did they get killed? Like, what happened with them? Like, did they survive the overall decay wave that was coming through? Did they manage to get away? That's up in the air. But other things, too, as well. We get to see actual characters that we've seen a little bit just die within this episode. Like, this scene here with Crust is a scene I've been wanting to talk about for a long time. Because he has been in this series for a while. He obviously hasn't been a spotlight character like, let's say, Mirako has. But he has been in the series, and he's definitely had a lot of scenes, at least recently, within this arc. And I know many that probably look at this as face value to be like, oh, that's sad, but that's about it. They'll move on, and that's it. And I think what makes this scene so tragic is a few different lines that people need to understand, because some might have forgotten. When he was first introduced, when we got introduced basically to the top 10 heroes, Crust was an All Might fanboy. His very outfit, his attire, represents All Might. I mean, he has the signature smile, basically. He has, like, the thumbs up that All Might kind of does. He has, like, the, the eyebrow-looking thing going on. Just everything about Crust's design is obviously screaming he's an All Might fanboy / wannabe, which is fine. But when you first look at his character, he seems like he's just, that's all he is. All Might fanboy. And you really get to see the true nature of someone when they're put into a state of life or death. And this scene is just so quick. It shows just how someone can die instantly against Shigaraki, no matter what level in the tier of strength they are. Because he's a part of the top 10 heroes. He isn't a throwaway character, so to speak. He is a top 10 hero that just got destroyed like it was nothing. And thanks to his sacrifice is why Aizawa even survived in the first place. If he didn't self-sacrifice himself and chop that Nomu away, Aizawa and everyone else there would have died. His sacrifice is incredibly important. Aizawa literally was saved. And I think everybody can see, holy crap, if he didn't do that. So he sacrificed himself. But there is a thing about this scene that does need to be talked about, and I feel like a lot of people don't really catch this, is as he's crumbling away, as Crust is dying, he puts a thumbs up, and he smiles. And briefly, if you look very closely, it's very hard to see. It's very hard. But he has a tear. He has a tear in his eye, and he's smiling. It basically shows his true level of emotion in that moment. Despite, obviously, him putting on a brave face, and he's smiling, giving the thumbs up to Aizawa, he cries. You can probably understand inside of him the deep turmoil, the sadness and despair he's feeling as he feels his body crumbling away to ash. That would be horrifying. I could not imagine the feeling of dread just seeing your body disintegrate around you. But in those last moments, instead of just being consumed by overwhelming fear, he saved Aizawa. Thumbs ups to him and says, it's okay. It's okay. He's like, yeah, it sucks, I'm dying, but it's okay. Live on for everyone else. It's a beautiful moment. It seems like this really just go under the radar and people just completely glance over because there's just so much else going on. But I feel like Crust is easily one of the best side characters in My Hero Academia. And this is definitely a talent that Horikoshi is really good with when it comes to his manga. And I feel like not a lot of people really give him a lot of credit for. There's a lot of times throughout My Hero where Horikoshi introduces a side character, and they're around maybe for an episode, 2 episodes, maybe a few chapters in the manga, but within those few moments that they're introduced, they just completely steal the spotlight, and they completely become amazing characters that you can remember a lot. And that's like what's happened with Mirako. Mirako obviously has had quite the spotlight, even though she's been briefly within the story, and people have fallen in love with Mirako. So I think that this scene is a perfect representation of his writing, that Horikoshi is really good with introducing characters or new characters and using them in such a way that's like, holy crap, that's impactful, and you just grow attached to them. Because Crust, I love him. I love him as a character, and it's sad to see him go, but I think that this is a great final moment for him, really just showing a lot to his character before he evaporates into nothing. Now, let's talk about a few things, okay? So, this episode does show just so much that Shigaraki is capable, which I already mentioned, but we also have to wonder now, is Izuku even capable of fighting him? Personally, after just seeing this brief showcasing, it does not appear to be so. Because it just seems like there's nothing that they can do to stop just decay alone. That's not including other quirks that Shigaraki might have. Now, another thing to mention as well, we have a lot of stuff going on. We have the stuff with Hawks and all that, and Dobby, and I think that, this scene is really impactful. You get to see basically how you have this gray area with the heroes, with Hawks killing twice, and it makes you wonder how will everybody view Hawks once the truth comes out after all these events. You know, will people start to hate Hawks, hate heroes, and everything? And it makes you wonder a little bit more about Endeavor's past as well, what happens when that comes out too. There's just so many things, so it's just like, wow. Like, you know, the Hawk stuff is just really bad. Oh yeah, I want to talk about Shigaraki again. I really like the contrast here, by the way. I think what makes Shigaraki so unsettling for this episode, and why the final act of it is so good, especially when the orders get gone, let's start destroying everything, is that Shigaraki's first instinct isn't to be filled with rage. It isn't to start screaming. He's just calm, saying he's cold, and he just acts very reserved. That's exactly what Shigaraki acts like. And it's scary to see someone act like that when they're obviously just so dangerous. It kind of undermines all the effort all of the heroes are putting into trying to stop this. That he's looking at everyone around him as insignificant. That they are bugs in comparison to him, and they don't really matter to him. Him just putting his hand on the ground and causing decay was enough to just shatter the resolve of all the heroes that have been building up for months to be able to take down the League of Villains or the Paranormal Liberation Front. It's a scary moment, and I think the cold nature of Shigaraki in the beginning with the calmness is very, very well written. And I think many can agree with that one. Now, let's talk about a few other scenes. So I think everybody's obviously going to be talking about this. Oh my goodness. So we got a funny scene here with Mount Lady, and Fat Gum is like, incoming and all that, and it's okay. It's funny. It's legit funny, okay? I've always been a fan of Mount Lady, and just seeing this scene is just, yeah, it's just comedy gold. It's absolutely comedy gold. I remember when it came out, like, you know, a few years back when we got the panel, everybody was talking about it. I remember the manga panel to it. Everybody was mentioning it, and just seeing this, it's funny. It's just funny finally getting to see it animated. If you're interested, you should look up the manga panel. I think the manga panel's more detailed, but definitely the animators went in on Fat Gum's reaction for the scene. But, yeah, so overall, episode, was it good? Well, yeah, I think they did a great job. I mean, poor Exless, my man, he, died. He died, too. Another shout out to this man. Like, that poor man did not deserve that, but he got his literal drip stolen by Shigaraki, by the way. If you notice, like, the cape here, like, the cape he has, Shigaraki literally wears it. He literally disintegrates Exless just for his cape, nothing else. Just disintegrates him for his cape because he's cold. That's messed up and evil. That really is evil. But yeah, overall though, it's a good episode. Like it's a legitimately good episode. I'm excited to see what happens next, and we're gonna finally get to see our boy Gigan as well go in. Oh, it's gonna be fun. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed my content, you know, please subscribe and please leave a like on this video. It does help me out a lot. But with that, Chibi out.